one of them said, well, why don't you take a credit line and you don't have to pay for it unless you use it? And I said, well, I'll consider it. I've got to look at another bank, made an appointment this afternoon. I need to talk to them. That day was over. I ended up with two 50,000 US dollar accounts that I never asked. Had I made an appointment and went to them and asked them, I probably would have got nothing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so you can raise finance just on the strength of what you're doing, basically.
Right, and you spread the word, and it's an education. I've read hundreds and hundreds of books. I list in my book, Bringing a Product to Market, several other books. I didn't do all the marketing because I quoted the book that I used for marketing. I didn't do all the negotiation text. I listed the book that I used for negotiation and sales and different aspects. It's something that you learn, you get better as you go. It's an amazing, and it's an adventure, and it can be exciting.
Okay, so with that in mind, so now you have this money. Where did you go to find the manufacturer? And what process did you go through to get to that eventuality?
Well, for me, it was relatively easy. I went to a local company that made something similar, and they couldn't make it, but they wrote down the name and address of a company that could. And that's generally what I recommend. However, your local university usually has a list of prototype makers or manufacturers. There's a directory here in America called Thomas Directory that lists every manufacturer in the world. I'm sure they have an online service and what they make. Now that times are bad, people think it's a bad time to start a business, but it's not. One of the advantages is these manufacturers will actually make a smaller run for you than they would when times are great, because they need your business. And trade publications, if you do something in plastic, for example, there's magazines that are sent to all the plastic manufacturers in the area, and in there's advertisements with people that will manufacture for you. And one thing I would recommend is that you ask for and check references. If somebody's done a great job, they don't mind giving you references.
Cool. Okay, so when you go through that process, I mean, in my head, I always used to get paranoid and think that the manufacturer would actually run away with my idea if it was that good. I mean, did you have that apprehension when you approach these manufacturers?
What I did is I always, even before I had patents, when I was trying to make a prototype or a small run manufacturer, I always had them sign that non-disclosure. It is a binding document. You just go into the search engine and put non-disclosure document and keep it on your computer and just change the name and the dates. And if something ever happens, you have that because you can say, you started on this date and here you signed a non-disclosure 6 months prior with me, and so that's pretty easy to prove that they took your idea. And then of course, if you've applied for a patent, or if you are patenting it yourself and you've started that process, you have that. Manufacturers are pretty savvy, and if you're protected, they're not going to just take it. They're content. Most people specialize. Most people specialize in selling your product, making your product, or your money manager, or your office personnel. Very few people can do everything. So most manufacturers would rather manufacture than sell. So it's not as dangerous as one might think.
Okay. Okay. Next question. Now you have this product. You've gone to the manufacturer, and you're ready to sell. How do I price my products? How do I gauge the profit margins?
Actually, test the price. You have to test it in different locations. You have to test it in different formations. And what I mean by that is there's very few things in this world that are based solely on the cost of manufacture for their price. There is no formula that says you need to make double your money, 4 times your money. Basically, prices are what people are willing to pay. Do we really think that perfume that is endorsed by, I might be showing my age, but Liz Taylor, is that much more expensive than the perfume right next to it. The actual cost is probably close to the same, and in some cases it might even be cheaper because they make it in such large quantities. But it's what people are willing to pay. And the only way to know that is to test it. Like in Clippies, I tested not how much it was to different places until people started to pull and say, well, I don't know. Then you know you've reached that area where they're not willing to pay it, or the majority of them aren't willing to pay. Then I put them in different formations, and what I meant by that is a single Clippies is somebody that would buy one for themselves or buy one for one or two of their coworkers, or a manager might buy one for all their department. Or even a facility would buy one for everybody in the facility because it's a small, low-priced item. Then I would put one into a real nice box, a decorative box, and put it with matching enamel earrings. And then I would try to sell that at $29.99 or something. That might be a gift for a girlfriend or something like that. Then I would put a better box with a different, and add a few more things to it and sell it for $49.99 US dollars, and that might be a gift to a spouse. You don't know which will do. And one of the things QVC told me, I never got my product on QVC, but they were the ones that said, you need to get it to our $19.99 and $29.99 magic price, and you do that by putting it in a gift box. So I put it in a gift box, and they still turned me down, but they gave me the idea of the gift box, and since then I've sold thousands of gift boxes.
Wow, okay.
In rejection, you can make money.
Boy, that will now give my audience much hope to just get out there and do something. Okay, so what are the keys to your success? I mean, you've kind of alluded to them throughout the interview, but can you just really just make it poignant, a step by step, keys to success in terms of bringing your product to market and also selling to make a profit?
Well, actually, I can sum it up in 3 words, and that's read my book. But actually, it's persistence and a single focus. It's simple but not easy. It is hard work, but it's for yourself. You benefit. I would say persistence and effort. I had a day when I had my day job and started my company. Sometimes I would arrive home and I'd have a stack of orders, and I'd have all of a sudden I'd get a call at maybe 10 till 6 p.m. and somebody would have to have one overnighted. They had a party and they forgot to get it, and it was already past the time that the carriers could come out and get it. The last thing I wanted to do was to get in my car and drive like a banshee to 45 minutes to the last pickup place to one of the carriers and overnight that product. Sometimes it was only a $25 order, but I did it. And that person remembered. They looked great the next day when the UPS or FedEx man came into their party and gave them their Clippies, and they were a hero. That person remembered when it came Christmas time or some other occasion and ordered again from me. So it's effort and persistence.
Okay. So due to the economic climate, it's kind of a strange question, but how would you position your product in terms of, when you're inventing something, would you want to invent it where it will cost you so much, or invent something which is highly expensive and then, get hammered on the pricing when you're trying to sell?
Well, the hard times are not a bad time to start a business by any means, and it certainly is dependent on the product. If it's a big boiler system, or say you're a plumber and you're putting in a big boiler system, you probably only have to sell one a year. A lot of times you can take the order first and you can take a deposit, and that deposit might be enough to cover your entire cost, and you sell one item. You certainly sell 3 or 4 the entire year, and you've made a lot of money. There's other items like mine that are small, that are only a few dollars, wholesale that you have to sell many. So a lot of that depends on the products, but many times you can get deposits, and many times you can. There are companies that will factor. You go out and make a huge sale, and you don't have the money to get manufactured. Well, they'll take a large percent, but they'll give you the money, and then when the company pays, they take a percentage of that. So there are ways. You just go out and sell. There's ways to fill it.
Okay, we have about approximately just under 5 minutes left. Can you recommend some sources for those who have an idea, or they're just on the cusp of getting started? I mean, can you share that with us?
Yes, there's a lot of help. Here we have small business developmental centers. I'm sure in Europe they have something as well. Those are wonderful sources. Your universities are really moving towards entrepreneurship and small business. I would recommend those. I outline in my book and in my e-booklet a lot of sources, and those people, they're not just recommendations. Those are people I use. Those are people that I trust. Those are people I've spoken to on the telephone on many occasions to ask questions. And just like I do, I answer questions. People email me all the time. We offer a program where we mentor. With the purchase of my book, it's on sale right now for $99 US. You got just about unlimited contact with me for a year. Any question you have, you email, or if you're in the US, you can telephone, and I can answer the questions the best of my ability. A lot of times I don't know the answers, but most of the time I know where to get them, and it saves you a lot of time and money, and it also saves you from the number one cost of business. The number one cost of business is, most people don't think of it as the number one cost. They think labor, or they think rent, or but the number one cost of business is mistakes.
Right.
You can make a lot of little mistakes and get by. One mistake can wipe you out.
Exactly. I mean, well, in my experience, I've certainly been very fortunate to make mistakes, but they, without me even realizing, they weren't that great. It felt bad at the time, but on hindsight, it wasn't actually that bad, because I'm here today. I've recovered, but I've heard some real scare stories where people have committed totally, and they didn't do any of the testing. They didn't test their product. They didn't test the service. They just assumed that people wanted what it is that they were offering, and they made a big hoo-ha, made a big booby out of it, and they just got completely wiped out, to the point where their house was repossessed and all the rest of it. It's really bad.
That's why I recommend test. Now I also recommend going slow. Time goes by very quickly before you know it. If you just double sales like I did, it doesn't take long to go from 200 pieces to several thousands of pieces. If you just do 200, very little cost. I started with $500, and probably 37 or 8 of it was a permit to start. So I mean, I turned boxes inside out. I did everything you could ever imagine to cut cost. We used, like I said, our wits about us rather than money. Rather than hire somebody to do something, I did it myself. Later I could hire it out, but I understand all the basic points about business because I've done them. You can't take shortcuts. You have to learn, and it's laid out all for you. I wish I had a book like I had written now. Bringing a product to market is basically the book I wish I had.
Okay, and I think that's a good place to leave it, because we only have about 40-something seconds. Do you have any final thoughts for the audience?
Well, my final thoughts are, just do it. You can do it. You work hard in your day job. Why not work hard for yourself? People come up with fabulous ideas all the time. You need to start thinking how you can market your idea. What saves you time and what saves you energy and what is quicker is probably a great idea. If you're having a problem, so is someone else. I recommend either, you're welcome to email me at admin@clippies.com to discuss any of your ideas. I welcome signing non-disclosure forms, and I'd be able to happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, that's www